This isn't a comparison video. I've done 7 of those over the past 7 weeks. Kajabi, Teachable, Thinkific, walkthroughs, tech stacks, launch plans. All of it useful, I hope. All of it fairly analytical. This one is different. This week, I want to tell you how I actually got here, why I used System.io and what the journey looked like before I landed on it, and, honestly, what I'd do differently if I was starting again today. So no pricing tables, no feature comparisons, just the real version of how this works when it's your own actual business and your own actual money and your own time on the line. I think there's value in that because most of the content you'll find about course platforms is written by people who've tested them for a review. I'm talking to you as someone who's been using this as the backbone of a real business, who's made decisions with it, made mistakes with it, and learned things the slightly expensive way so you don't have to. So, here's the honest version. I've been in digital marketing for over 25 years. I've spent more than $40 million on paid advertising. Yes, really. And during that time, I've worked with over 200 clients. And I have an MBA and a fellowship from the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. I tell you that not to impress you, but because I want you to understand something. None of that experience that I've got made choosing a course platform straightforward. If anything, knowing too much made it harder. When I first seriously looked at building a course business, I had the same problem that most people have, but multiplied. I knew enough about marketing technology to have an opinion about everything, which meant I could find a reason to like and a reason to dislike every platform I looked at. I looked at Teachable, liked the simplicity, didn't like the transaction fees on the lower plans. I looked at Thinkific, genuinely impressed by the course builder, wondered whether I'd miss having the marketing tools built in though. I looked at platforms most people haven't heard of, spent time in dashboards I'd never go back to. I looked at Kajabi, loved the brand, thought the price was steep for where I was at that moment, but jumped in anyway for 3 expensive years. And all of that looking, all of that comparing, and tab opening and note taking was at least in part a way of not making a decision. And when I did make a decision, it was one I hope you'll learn from so that you don't make the same mistake. I say that because I suspect some of you are in the same place. And I want you to know that the analysis paralysis doesn't go away just because you know more. Sometimes it gets worse. What breaks it is choosing something and building something with it. And if you can do that with 0 risk, so much the better. I came across System.io the way most people do. Someone mentioned it in a conversation as an alternative worth looking at. My first reaction, if I'm being honest, was mild skepticism. The price point seemed almost suspiciously low. A platform that does courses, funnels, email marketing and automation for free or for £13, $17 a month at the first paid tier. My instinct was that something was missing, that there'd be a catch buried somewhere in the features list. So I did what I'd have advised any client to do. I stopped comparing on paper and started actually using it. I set up a free account. I built something in it. I ran it through the scenarios that mattered to my business: course delivery, email sequences, sales funnels, checkout. And what I found was that the platform did what it said it would do. Not with the polish of Kajabi at its top tier, not with the assignment depth of Thinkific, but solidly, reliably, and without requiring me to stitch it together with 3 other tools. The thing that convinced me wasn't a feature, it was the experience of using it for a month and not hitting a wall. Everything I needed it to do, it could do. Nothing broke in a way that cost me a sale or a student. For a business tool, that's the bar. Does it do the job reliably? System.io did. I upgraded to the webinar plan around £35 a month, $47, when I needed the webinar functionality. That upgrade felt proportionate. The jump from what I was paying to what I needed to pay was reasonable, not punishing. That matters. A platform that scales with you without suddenly becoming expensive is a platform you can trust your business to. Let me tell you specifically what System.io does in my business, because I think that's more useful than another feature walkthrough. My courses live on it. The content is structured, the student access is managed, and the delivery is reliable. Students get what they paid for, when they're supposed to get it, without me needing to manually manage anything. My sales funnels run through it. When someone comes to my course page, goes through the checkout, and becomes a student, that entire journey happens inside System.io without me needing to get involved. One connected system, no integrations to maintain, no Zapier workflows to babysit. My email list is managed through it. Automated welcome sequences, follow-up emails, broadcast messages to my list, all inside the same platform. Everything that happens on the course side is visible on the email side. When someone buys, the automation knows when someone completes a course, I can follow up accordingly. My affiliate program runs through it. People who want to refer others to my courses can do so through System.io's built-in affiliate management and get paid for it. I don't need a separate tool for that. All of that, one login, one low monthly fee at the webinar plan level. When I compare that to the stack I could have built, separate course platforms, separate email tools, separate funnel builder, separate affiliate management, the simplicity of having it all under one roof is not a small thing. It's time I'm not spending on maintenance. It's money I'm not spending on subscriptions. It's cognitive load that I'm not carrying. That compounding simplicity is underrated when you're evaluating platforms on a feature-by-feature basis. Here's where I'll be most useful to you. If I was starting again today, knowing what I know now, here's what I'd change. I'd start on the free plan, and I'd stay there longer than felt comfortable. I maybe upgraded earlier than I needed to, not because the free plan was limiting me, it wasn't. Not yet, but because I felt like paying for something made it more real, more committed, more serious. That's not a good reason to spend money. The free plan is genuinely sufficient for a first launch. I'd use it until the contact limit or the course limit was an actual constraint, not a hypothetical one. I'd build the course before I built the sales page. I spent time early on getting the sales page right, the copy, the layout, the pricing, before I had a complete course to put it behind. That's backwards. Nobody can buy what doesn't exist. Build the thing first, then build the page that sells it. I tell people sooner. There's a tendency, I had it, most people I speak to have, you want everything to be ready before you tell anyone that it exists. The perfect launch, the complete course, the polished page. What I know now is that telling people early, even before it's finished, does two things. It creates accountability, which is useful for you, and it tells you very quickly whether anyone wants what you're building, which is essential. I'd have had that conversation with potential students earlier in the process, not to sell them something unfinished, but to ask whether the idea resonated, whether the outcome was promising, whether it was one they'd actually want. That conversation is free, and it saves you from building something that nobody wants in perfect silence. I'd worry less about the competition. I spent time early on looking at what other people in my space were doing, their course structures, their pricing, their platforms, their marketing. Some of it was useful. Most of it was a distraction. Your audience is not choosing between you and every other offer, every other course creator in your niche. They're deciding whether what you're offering is worth their time and money. That decision is based upon whether they trust you and whether the outcome matters to them. You earn that trust by showing up, being useful and being honest, not by having a more polished platform than the person next to you. And the last thing, the one I'd press hardest on if I was sitting across from someone who's just starting, I'd launch something before I felt ready. Not something sloppy, not something half-hearted, but something real that helps someone, even if it's not everything you eventually want it to be. The gap between ready and launched is almost always smaller than it feels from the inside, and the only way to discover that is to cross it. That's 8 weeks of content. And I want to tell you what's coming next because I think it matters to you to know where this channel is going. The first 8 weeks have been about the platform question: which tool, what it costs, how to set it up, how it compares. The next series is going to go a layer deeper. We're going to talk about pricing, how to price your first course, how to think about value versus cost, how to have the confidence to charge what your knowledge is worth. We're going to talk about getting students, not just building a course that sits there, but actively getting the right people in front of it. We're going to talk about your first launch, the mechanics of it, the messaging, what to do when it goes well and what to do when it doesn't go quite as planned. And we're going to talk about what comes after the first course. The second one, the upgrade path, the point at which a course business starts to feel like a real sustainable thing rather than an experiment. If any of that's useful to you, if you're building something and you want someone in your corner who's been through it and is happy to be straight with you, subscribe. That's genuinely what this channel's here for. If you've been watching this series and you haven't set up your System.io account yet, the link is in the description. I'll put it on screen. It's free to start, no credit card required. It's the platform I use, and I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't believe it was the right starting point for most people in your position. If you've already started building, if you've set something up, if you've recorded your first lesson, if you've had your first sale, I'd genuinely love to hear about it in the comments. Not because it makes good engagement metrics, but because it's exactly the kind of thing I made this channel to support, and knowing it's working for someone makes my work worthwhile. And if you're still sitting on the fence, not quite sure whether your idea is good enough, whether you know enough, whether now is the right time, I'll leave you with the only thing I know to be consistently true about this. There is no version of this where the timing is perfect. There is only the version where you start and the version where you don't. I hope you start. I'll see you in the next series.